Revenge with Marvella. I stood in the doorway of what used to be my sewing room, watching my daughter-in-law, Vanessa, direct two moving men as they carried out my grandmother's antique dresser. "Be careful with that," she said, not to protect it, but annoyed at how long they were taking. My son, Marcus, stood beside her, his arm around her waist, nodding along like a puppet. I had lived in this house for 42 years. My late husband, William, and I had raised Marcus here. We had painted every wall, planted every tree in the yard, built every memory within these walls. "Mom," Marcus said without looking at me, "Vanessa and I talked, and we think it's time you moved into Sunset Gardens. It's a nice facility. They have activities, meals included, people your own age." Sunset Gardens. I had driven past it once. It was a nursing home with barred windows and the smell of industrial cleaner that couldn't quite cover up the scent of neglect. "I don't need a facility," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself." Vanessa finally turned to look at me, her expression a mixture of pity and annoyance. "Eleanor, you're 74. You fell last month. You forget to take your pills. You're becoming a burden, and frankly, Marcus and I need this space for the baby." The fall had been 3 weeks ago. I had tripped over a garden hose Marcus had left coiled on the porch, the same hose I had asked him twice to put away. My wrist had swollen, but nothing was broken. I iced it, wrapped it, and went about my day. Somehow, in Vanessa's retelling, that stumble had become a catastrophic event proving I was too frail to live independently. And the pills? I had forgotten to take my blood pressure medication exactly once in 6 months because Marcus had called me in a panic, saying his car had broken down and he needed a ride. By the time I got home, it was past my usual medication time, and I took it an hour late. 1 hour. One time. Vanessa had been visiting that day and saw the pills still sitting on the counter at their scheduled time. She had made a mental note, apparently, storing it away for this exact moment. "We're not trying to be cruel," Marcus said, finally meeting my eyes. "We want what's best for you. And honestly, Mom, this house is too much for you to handle. The yard, the repairs, the stairs, it's not safe." I looked at my son, the boy I had raised alone after William died, the child I had worked 2 jobs to put through college. "I've managed fine for 42 years, I said quietly. The conversation happened 2 weeks ago, but the signs had been there for months. It started with small comments. Vanessa mentioning how outdated my kitchen was, how much potential the house had. Then came the suggestions that I should downsize, that a big house was wasted on one person. I hadn't realized she was building a case. Brick by brick, comment by comment, she was constructing a narrative that I was incompetent, forgetful, a danger to myself. And Marcus, my sweet boy who used to defend me against everything, had started believing her. The truth hit me one afternoon when I overheard them talking in the backyard. I was in the kitchen, making lemonade, and their voices carried through the open window. "Once she's in Sunset Gardens, we can renovate the whole place," Vanessa said. "Knock down that wall between the kitchen and dining room, redo the master bathroom, maybe add a deck." "What about the cost?" Marcus asked. "Your mom's Social Security and pension will cover Sunset Gardens. And once we sell this place, well, we'll have more than enough." My hands had frozen on the picture. Sell this place. They were planning to put me away and sell my home. The home William and I had bought with our savings. The home where we had celebrated every birthday, every holiday, every milestone. They were going to take it all. I needed proof. I needed to understand exactly what was happening. That night, after Marcus and Vanessa left, I went to my husband's old office. William had been a lawyer, meticulous about documentation. His filing system was still intact, and I knew exactly where to find what I needed. Our property deed. Our will. Our financial records. I pulled out the deed first. The house was in my name and William's name, with right of survivorship. When he died, it became solely mine. Clear, legal, and undisputable. Then I found our wills. William and I had made them together 30 years ago. I read mine carefully, checking every clause. The house, my savings, everything, it was set to go to Marcus upon my death. But there was a section I had forgotten about, One William had insisted on including a clause that stated if Marcus predeceased me or if he attempted to declare me incompetent without legitimate medical cause, the estate would be divided differently. I had to read it 3 times to understand the full implications. If Marcus tried to have me declared incompetent, if he tried to force me out of my home, the will had provisions. Protections. William had known, somehow, that I might need safeguards. He had protected me even from beyond the grave. The next morning, I called my husband's former law partner, Howard Chin. No, wait, Howard Brennan. He was retired now, but still kept an office for consultations. Eleanor, he said warmly when I arrived. It's been too long. What can I do for you? I explained everything. The comments, the fall, the pills, the conversation I had overheard. Howard listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. Do you have documentation of any of this? He asked. I pulled out a small notebook. For the past 3 weeks, since the day Vanessa first mentioned Sunset Gardens, I had been writing everything down. Every conversation, every date, every witness. Howard flipped through the pages, nodding. This is good. This shows a pattern. But Eleanor, I need to ask, do you want to fight this, or do you want to try to reconcile with Marcus? I looked at him, this man who had known me for decades, who had stood beside William through countless cases. I want to protect myself, I said. And I want Marcus to see what Vanessa is really doing. She's not trying to help me. She's trying to take everything William and I built. Howard leaned back in his chair. Then we need to be strategic. If you fight openly, Vanessa will paint you as difficult, confused, combative. We need to let her think she's winning. What do you mean? We let them proceed with their plan. But we document everything. And when the time is right, we reveal the truth. 2 days later, Marcus came by with paperwork. Sunset Gardens admission forms, power of attorney documents, and a proposal to put the house in his name for estate planning purposes. My hands shook as I looked at the papers, but I kept my voice calm. This is a lot to process, Marcus. Can I have a few days to think about it? Vanessa, who had been standing behind him, stepped forward. Eleanor, we've already put down a deposit at Sunset Gardens. Your room is reserved for next month. We need these signed today, so we can start the transition. Next month. For weeks away. They had already decided my future without asking me. I'd like to have my own lawyer review these, I said carefully. Marcus's face tightened. Mom, that's not necessary. I'm your son. I'm looking out for you. Then you shouldn't mind if I have someone verify that, I replied. Vanessa's expression turned cold. If you don't trust your own son, then maybe you really are losing it. Maybe the confusion is worse than we thought. It was a threat, thinly veiled. Sign the papers, or we'll use your confusion as evidence against you. I thought about Howard's advice. Let them think they're winning. You're right, I said, softening my tone. I'm sorry. I'm just scared of change. Of course, I trust Marcus. Where do I sign? I didn't sign. Not really. I signed Eleanor Rose Thompson instead of Eleanor Rose Thompson Williams, my legal name. A small difference, but enough to invalidate the documents. Howard had told me this trick. If I felt pressured to sign something, make a small error that would render it legally meaningless. Marcus and Vanessa left satisfied, thinking they had won. I watched their car pull away, then immediately photographed every document before they could be filed. Howard would need copies. That afternoon, I began phase 2 of my plan. I went to my doctor, Dr. Patricia Odom, for a complete physical and cognitive evaluation. I need documentation that I'm of sound mind and body, I told her. I need it dated, notarized, and thorough. Dr. Odom, who had been my physician for 20 years, understood immediately. She ran every test available. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, physical coordination, blood work, everything. 3 days later, I had a comprehensive medical report stating that I was in excellent health for my age, with no signs of cognitive decline, no memory issues, and full capacity for independent living. Eleanor, Dr. Odom said as she handed me the report, I don't know what's happening, but I want you to know you're one of the sharpest patients I have. Whatever you're facing, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I hugged her, fighting back tears. Thank you. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. The documents from Dr. Odom became my shield. I made 5 copies, stored them in different locations, one with Howard, one in a safe deposit box, one with my neighbor, one in my house, and one with William's sister, Aunt Dorothy, who lived 3 states away. I wasn't taking chances. Next, I needed witnesses. People who could testify to my competence if this went to court. I started attending my church group again, something I had let slide in recent months. I volunteered at the local library, where I had worked part-time for 15 years before retiring. I joined a gardening club and took a watercolor painting class. Everywhere I went, I was social, sharp, engaged. I made sure people saw me thriving. My neighbor, Thomas, noticed the change. He was 78, a widower who had moved in 2 years ago. "Eleanor, it's good to see you out and about again," he said one morning as I tended my roses. "You seem different lately." "Happier." "I'm remembering who I am," I told him. I let myself forget for a while. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "If you ever need anything, a witness, a friend, someone to verify you're not crazy, you let me know." I looked at him, surprised. "How did you know?" "I've seen this before. My daughter tried it with her mother-in-law. Convinced her son his mother was declining when really, she just wanted the inheritance early. Didn't end well for my daughter." "What happened?" Truth came out. Son divorced her. Mother lived another 15 years, sharp as a tack. I filed that story away. Maybe there was hope for Marcus yet. 2 weeks before my scheduled move to Sunset Gardens, Vanessa started clearing out my house. She came by every afternoon with boxes, sorting through my belongings without asking. My china, my photo albums, my quilts, everything was either being packed for storage or marked for donation. "This is junk," she said, holding up a handmade blanket my mother had crocheted. "Nobody wants this old stuff." That blanket had taken my mother 6 months to make. Every stitch held love and care. "I want it," I said firmly. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Eleanor, you're moving into a small room. You can't take all this clutter. You need to let go of the past." She dropped the blanket into a donation box. I watched it fall, watching Vanessa's true nature emerge more clearly each day. She wasn't just taking my house. She was erasing my history, my memories, my entire life. That evening, after she left, I went through every donation box. I rescued the blanket, the photo albums, my grandmother's jewelry, William's war medals, everything precious. I moved them to Thomas's house for safekeeping. "Are you sure?" Thomas asked as I carried over the 3rd box. "I'm sure. And Thomas, if something happens to me, if they succeed in putting me in Sunset Gardens, I need you to contact Howard Brennan immediately. Promise me." "I promise." "But Eleanor, they're not going to win. I can see that fire in your eyes. You're planning something." I smiled grimly. "I'm protecting what's mine. There's a difference." Marcus came by alone 3 days before the move. Vanessa was at work, and for the first time in months, I had my son to myself. He looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact as he walked through the house. "Mom, I know this is hard," he started. "But it's really for the best. Vanessa and I have been looking at renovation plans, I interrupted. "For my house." "Well, it'll be our house once you're settled at Sunset Gardens. We're going to make it really nice. Modern. Maybe start a family here." I sat down in William's old armchair, the leather worn smooth from decades of use. "Marcus, do you remember your 7th birthday?" He looked confused by the question. "What?" "Your 7th birthday. Your father and I were so broke that year. We couldn't afford a party, couldn't afford presents. So we made everything ourselves. I sewed you a stuffed dinosaur because you loved dinosaurs. Your father built you a wooden castle. Do you remember?" Marcus's expression softened. "I still have that dinosaur. It's in storage somewhere." "In storage. Not in your home where you can see it. Not where you can remember that your parents loved you so much we stayed up 3 nights straight making gifts we couldn't afford to buy." My voice cracked slightly. "We built this house into a home for you, Marcus. Every decision we made was for you. And now you're taking it away because Vanessa wants a renovation." Marcus sat down heavily on the couch. For a moment, I saw conflict in his eyes, the boy I raised fighting with the man Vanessa had shaped. "It's not like that, Mom. I'm trying to take care of you. You're getting older. You need help. I need help or Vanessa needs my house? He winced. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me, Marcus, whose idea was Sunset Gardens? Yours or Vanessa's? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. And whose idea was it to take power of attorney? To put the house in your name? To pack up my belongings without asking? Vanessa's trying to make this easier for you. You don't understand how hard this is for us too. Hard for you. I stood up, anger finally breaking through my careful composure. You're taking everything I have. You're putting me in a facility I never asked for, stealing my home, erasing my life, and it's hard for you. Marcus stood too, his own frustration rising. You're being dramatic. Sunset Gardens is nice. Other people would be grateful. Then let Vanessa's parents move there. Let them give up their home. Let them be grateful. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden William and I had planted together. I'm your mother, Marcus. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs so you could go to college. I never once asked you for anything in return. And the first time you had to choose between me and Vanessa, you chose her. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Marcus said quietly, "The move is in 3 days, Mom. I'll come by to help pack." That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Marcus, about the son I had raised versus the man he had become. Vanessa had changed him, certainly. But I had to admit, he had let himself be changed. The next morning, Howard called. "Eleanor, I have news." I did some digging into Vanessa's background. And? She did this before. Her first husband's mother owned a valuable property in Portland. Vanessa convinced her husband to put his mother in assisted living, took control of the house, and sold it. The profit from that sale funded their divorce settlement when the marriage fell apart 2 years later. My blood ran cold. She has a pattern. Yes. And here's the interesting part. The mother sued after the fact. Claimed undue influence and coercion. The case settled out of court, but the records show Vanessa paid back a portion of the proceeds. Did Marcus know about this? I doubt it. Vanessa is very good at presenting herself as the caring daughter-in-law. But this information could be very useful if we need to show a pattern of behavior. I thanked Howard and hung up. Now I had another decision to make. Did I tell Marcus about Vanessa's past? Would he even believe me? Or would it just drive him further into her corner, convinced I was making up stories to avoid the move? I decided to wait. The truth would come out, but it needed to come out in a way Marcus couldn't deny or dismiss. The day before my scheduled move to Sunset Gardens, Vanessa held an estate sale in my front yard. She had hired a company to come in and sell my furniture, my dishes, my books, everything. I stood on the sidewalk watching strangers paw through my life, offering $5 for lamps that had lit our home for decades. Thomas appeared beside me, his expression furious. "This is robbery. Can you stop this?" "Not legally." I signed papers giving Marcus power of attorney. My voice was flat, emotionless. I had cried myself empty the night before. The papers were invalid because of the signature, but they don't know that yet. "When are you going to tell them?" "Tomorrow. At the lawyer's office. Marcus thinks we're meeting to finalize the house transfer." Thomas squeezed my shoulder. "You're stronger than you look, Eleanor." I watched Vanessa pocket cash from the sale, money that should have been mine. She saw me watching and actually smiled, a triumphant, cruel smile that said she had won. I smiled back. Let her think that. Let her feel secure in her victory. Tomorrow would be very different. That evening, I packed one suitcase with essentials, not because I was moving to Sunset Gardens, but because I wasn't sure if Marcus would let me back in the house after tomorrow. I took one last walk through each room, touching the walls William and I had painted, remembering every moment we had lived here. "I'm sorry, William," I whispered to his photograph. I should have protected this better. But tomorrow, I would start protecting it. Tomorrow, the truth came out. The meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock. Marcus, Vanessa, Howard, and myself gathered in Howard's conference room to finalize the arrangements. Vanessa wore her most sympathetic expression, the one she used when she wanted to appear caring. Marcus looked tired, like he hadn't slept well. Good. Maybe his conscience was finally bothering him. Thank you all for coming, Howard began formally. We're here to discuss the transfer of Eleanor's property and assets to Marcus, as well as to finalize Eleanor's admission to Sunset Gardens. Which is tomorrow, Vanessa interjected. So we need to move quickly. Howard nodded, pulling out a folder. Yes, well, before we proceed, I need to verify some documents. Marcus, you have power of attorney over your mother's affairs. Marcus pulled out the papers I had signed. Right here. Howard examined them carefully. He took his time, using a magnifying glass to check details. Vanessa fidgeted impatiently. Finally, Howard looked up. These documents are invalid. Vanessa's head snapped up. Excuse me. The signature reads Eleanor Rose Thompson. Eleanor's legal name, the name on all her property and financial documents, is Eleanor Rose Thompson Williams. This signature doesn't match her legal name, which means this power of attorney document is not legally binding. Marcus stared at the paper, then at me. Mom, you did that on purpose? Yes, I said calmly. I did. Vanessa's face flushed red. She tricked us. That's fraud. Howard smiled slightly. Actually, Mrs. Thompson Williams was within her rights to sign her name however she chose. If you had taken these documents to a lawyer before filing them, as Eleanor requested, this discrepancy would have been caught. Instead, you pressured her to sign immediately without proper legal review. The fraud, if any, would be yours. Vanessa stood up, her voice rising. This is ridiculous. She's clearly confused, signing the wrong name. It just proves she's not competent. Actually, Howard continued, pulling out another folder, I have here a comprehensive medical and cognitive evaluation performed by Dr. Patricia Odom 3 weeks ago. It states, and I quote, patient demonstrates excellent cognitive function, clear memory, sound judgment, and full capacity for independent living. No signs of dementia, confusion, or diminished mental capacity. He passed copies to Marcus and Vanessa. This evaluation was performed at Eleanor's request because she suspected her competency might be questioned. Quite shrewd, actually. Not the behavior of someone with diminished capacity. Marcus read the report, his expression shifting from anger to confusion to something that might have been shame. Mom, why didn't you tell me you did this? Because you didn't ask. You assumed I was incompetent. You believed Vanessa over your own mother. I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. You never once asked me if I wanted to move. You just decided for me. Vanessa leaned forward, her sympathetic mask gone entirely now. So what? She's still old. She still fell. She still forgets things. We have witnesses. Howard pulled out yet another folder. This man had come prepared, and I loved him for it. Let's discuss those incidents. The fall, Eleanor, would you explain what happened? I tripped over a garden hose Marcus had left on the porch. The same hose I had asked him twice to put away. I sprained my wrist. It healed fine. And the forgotten medication? I was late taking my blood pressure pill by 1 hour because Marcus called me to pick him up when his car broke down. 1 time in 6 months. Howard looked at Marcus. Would you say these incidents indicate serious cognitive decline, or would you say they're normal occurrences that could happen to anyone? Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at his hands. Vanessa, however, was not giving up. What about the house? It's too big for her. She can't maintain it. The house is maintained beautifully, Howard said. I drove by yesterday. The lawn is immaculate, the garden is thriving, the exterior is in excellent condition. Eleanor pays a local teenager to help with heavy yard work, which is responsible planning, not incompetence. He paused, then delivered the blow I had been waiting for. Now, let's discuss Sunset Gardens. Marcus, how much is the monthly cost? $4,500, Marcus said quietly. And how are you planning to pay for it? Mom's Social Security and pension. Howard nodded. Which would cover most of it. And the house? What were your plans for this property? Vanessa jumped in before Marcus could answer. We were going to renovate and live there. It's a good investment. A good investment, Howard repeated. Let me ask you something else. Vanessa, were you aware that this exact scenario happened once before in your life? With your first husband's mother? The room went silent. Vanessa's face went white. Marcus turned to look at her, confusion written across his features. What is he talking about? Howard pulled out more papers, public records, court documents. 7 years ago, Vanessa Bradford, formerly Vanessa formerly Vanessa Holloway, convinced her then-husband to place his mother in assisted living and took control of her property in Portland. The house was sold, the profit divided in their subsequent divorce. The mother later sued for undue influence and coercion. The case settled out of court. Marcus stood up, the papers shaking in his hands. Vanessa, is this true? It's not what it sounds like, Vanessa said quickly. That was completely different. His mother really was sick. They're twisting things to make me look bad. The medical records from that case show the mother was in good health, Howard said calmly. Much like Eleanor is now. The pattern is remarkably similar, wouldn't you say? Marcus looked at Vanessa like he was seeing her for the first time. You did this before. You actually did this before, and you didn't tell me. Because I knew you'd react like this. I knew you'd take her side. Vanessa's voice turned shrill. Your mother is manipulating you. She's playing victim to keep her house. It is her house? Marcus shouted. The outburst startled everyone. My son never shouted. It's her house, Vanessa. She built it with Dad. She raised me there. What right do we have to take it? Vanessa's expression turned calculating. She had lost Marcus, and she knew it. Now she was in survival mode. Fine. We won't take the house. Eleanor can stay there. But I'm telling you, Marcus, this is a mistake. When she falls again, when something happens, don't come crying to me. If I fall again, I said, speaking directly to my son, I have a medical alert system. I have neighbors who check on me. I have a support system. What I don't have is family who trusts me to know my own mind. Marcus sat down heavily. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have listened. I should have asked. Vanessa was so convincing. She's had practice, Howard said dryly. Vanessa grabbed her purse. I'm not staying here to be insulted. Marcus, are you coming? It was the moment of truth. Marcus looked at Vanessa, then at me. I saw the decision forming in his eyes before he spoke. No. I think I need to stay and talk to my mother. Alone. Vanessa's face went through several emotions, shock, rage, calculation. Finally, she settled on cold anger. Fine. When you're done being manipulated, I'll be at home. Our home. She emphasized the last 2 words, a reminder to Marcus that she still had power. She left, her heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor. The door closed behind her, and the 3 of us sat in silence. Finally, Marcus said, Howard, could you give us a few minutes? Of course. Howard gathered his folders and left quietly, closing the door behind him. Marcus and I were alone. My son looked at me with tears in his eyes. I don't even know where to start. Mom, I'm so sorry. I can't believe his voice broke. I wanted to comfort him immediately, but I also needed him to understand the full weight of what had nearly happened. You almost put me in a facility I didn't need. You almost sold my home without my consent. You almost let your wife erase 42 years of memories and history. I know. The tears spilled over. I know, and I hate myself for it. How do I fix this? How do I make this right? You start by answering one question honestly. Did you want to do any of this, or did Vanessa convince you it was necessary? Marcus wiped his eyes. At first, I really thought it was for your safety. After you fell, Vanessa kept talking about how dangerous it was for you to live alone, how something worse could happen. She showed me statistics about elderly people falling, breaking hips, not being found for days. And you believed her instead of asking me how I felt. Yes. And then the renovation plan started, and I got excited about making the house more modern, and somewhere along the way, I forgot it was your house. I forgot that you're not some frail old lady who needs to be managed. You're my mom, and you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I reached across the table and took his hand. Marcus, I need you to understand something. Vanessa has done this before. This is her pattern. She finds families with valuable assets, convinces them the elderly parent is a burden, and facilitates moving them out so she can access the money. What do I do? Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Do I leave her? Do I try to work it out? She's my wife. That's not a decision I can make for you. But I will tell you this, a marriage built on deceit and manipulation isn't a marriage. It's a business arrangement. And right now, Vanessa's business is taking advantage of vulnerable people. Marcus nodded slowly, processing everything. There's something else I need to tell you. Last week, Vanessa asked me about your life insurance policy. She wanted to know how much it was worth and who the beneficiary was. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? I said I didn't know, which was true. But Mom, why would she care about that unless? He couldn't finish the sentence, but we both knew what he was thinking. If I had moved to Sunset Gardens, if I had been isolated from my support system, if something had happened to me, Vanessa would have inherited everything through Marcus. I think I said carefully that you need to talk to a lawyer. Your own lawyer, not Howard, he's mine. But you need legal advice about protecting yourself from what Vanessa might do next. You think she'll try something? I think a woman who has done this before, who just got caught, who just lost access to a valuable property, I think that woman is dangerous. Not physically, necessarily, but financially and legally. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling my boss. He knows a good divorce attorney. The word divorce hung in the air. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired and sad that it had come to this. But Marcus was finally seeing clearly, and that was what mattered. 3 days later, Marcus moved out of the house he shared with Vanessa and moved back in with me temporarily. It was strange having him in his old bedroom again, but also comforting. We stayed up late talking, really talking, for the first time in years. She's threatening to take everything in the divorce, Marcus said one evening. The house we bought together, my savings, even my car. Her lawyer is claiming I abandoned her without cause. Did you document what Howard told us about her history? Yes, and my lawyer thinks it'll help. But Vanessa's claiming that was all a misunderstanding, that the records were misinterpreted. She's very good at making herself look like the victim. I thought about that. Marcus, do you remember when you were 12 and you tried to lie to me about breaking the window with your baseball? He smiled slightly. You told me that liars always over-explain. That the truth is simple, but lies need details. Exactly. If Vanessa's story is getting more complicated, more detailed, more elaborate, it's because she's lying. The truth doesn't change. It just is. The next morning, I woke up to find Marcus cooking breakfast, something he hadn't done since he was a teenager. Mom, he said as I entered the kitchen, I need to ask you something. Why did you forgive me so easily? I poured myself coffee and sat at the table. Because you're my son, and you made a mistake. You recognized it, you're trying to fix it, and you apologized. That's all I ever wanted. But I almost doesn't count. You didn't. You stopped, you listened, and you chose to do the right thing. That's what matters. 2 weeks after the confrontation in Howard's office, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Vanessa standing on my porch, looking very different from the last time I saw her. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes wrinkled. She looked defeated. Eleanor, can we talk? I should have said no. Every instinct told me this was a trap. But I was curious, so I let her in, leaving the front door wide open and positioning myself near it. What do you want, Vanessa? I want to apologize. I know you won't believe me, but I am sorry. I got carried away with the renovation plans, and I pushed too hard. I never meant to hurt you. She was good. Her voice cracked at just the right moments, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. If I hadn't seen the medical records from her previous scheme, I might have believed her. What do you really want? I asked. Vanessa's expression hardened slightly. I want you to talk to Marcus. Tell him you forgive me. Tell him he should give our marriage another chance. Why would I do that? Because I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air between us. My first thought was joy, a grandchild. My second thought was suspicion. How far along? 8 weeks. I just found out. Vanessa placed her hand on her stomach in a gesture that looked rehearsed. Marcus doesn't know yet. I wanted to tell him, but he won't return my calls. Eleanor, please. This baby needs their father. I studied her carefully. If you're really pregnant, Marcus will want to be involved. You don't need me to convince him of that. But he's so angry right now. He won't listen to me. If you could just tell him, Vanessa stopped mid-sentence as Marcus appeared in the doorway. He had been upstairs and had heard everything. "You're pregnant." His voice was flat, emotionless. Vanessa turned, her face lighting up with false hope. "Marcus." "Yes, I was just about to call you. We're going to have a baby. Isn't it wonderful?" "When did you find out?" "This morning. I took 3 tests. They were all positive." Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. "Dr. Odom? This is Marcus Thompson. I need to ask you something confidential. 3 weeks ago, when my wife came in for her annual checkup, did she request any specific tests?" He listened, his expression growing darker. "I see. And when you told her the results, what was her reaction?" Another pause. "Thank you, doctor. I appreciate your honesty." He hung up and looked at Vanessa. "You've known for 3 weeks. Dr. Odom told you at your checkup. You've been sitting on this information, waiting to use it as leverage." Vanessa's face went pale. "That's not, I was going to tell you, but then everything happened with your mother and stop lying." Marcus's voice thundered through the house. "Just once, tell the truth. You knew about the pregnancy before you started pushing to put Mom in Sunset Gardens. You thought if you could get control of this house, sell it, and secure that money before I found out about the baby, you'd have power in our marriage. You were planning your exit strategy before the baby was even born." Vanessa's mask finally cracked completely. The sweet, concerned daughter-in-law vanished, replaced by someone cold and calculating. "So what if I was? Your mother is sitting on a fortune in property while claiming to be some poor, vulnerable old woman. She doesn't need this house. She doesn't need all this space. But we do. Our child deserves to grow up somewhere nice, and I was going to make sure that happened." "By stealing from my mother?" Marcus asked. "By being smart. By planning ahead. Your mother wasn't going to give you this house while she's alive. She's too stubborn, too controlling. I was just speeding up the inevitable." I spoke up, my voice quiet but firm. "The house was never yours to speed up, Vanessa. And for your information, Maiwa leaves everything to Marcus. When I die naturally, on my own terms, not when you decide to warehouse me in a facility." Vanessa laughed, a bitter sound. "Of course it does. Everything's always about Marcus, about protecting Marcus, about making sure Marcus gets everything. What about me? What about what I need?" "What you need," Marcus said, "is a good lawyer. Because I'm filing for divorce and I'm suing for full custody of our child." "You can't do that." "Watch me. I have documentation of your pattern of elder abuse. I have proof you tried to coerce my mother into signing over her property. I have medical records showing you hid your pregnancy to use as leverage. No judge is going to give you custody." Vanessa looked between us, trapped and furious. Finally, she spat. "You deserve each other. A spineless mama's boy and a bitter old woman. Enjoy your precious house." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. 6 months later, I sat in my garden, watching my son push a stroller along the path William and I had laid decades ago. Baby Charlotte, named after William's mother, gurgled happily, her tiny hands reaching for the flowers. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago. Marcus got full custody, with Vanessa receiving supervised visitation. She had moved to another state, making even those visits rare. The house remained mine, but I had made some changes. Marcus and Charlotte lived in the guest wing, giving us both independence and togetherness. We had family dinners every night, and Marcus had taken over the yard work, properly putting away hoses and tools. I had updated my will with Howard's help. The house would go to Marcus eventually, but with ironclad protections ensuring it would pass to Charlotte, never to any future spouse who might have ulterior motives. Thomas came by most afternoons, and we had become close friends. He taught me to play chess, and I taught him to garden. Life had settled into a peaceful rhythm. "Mom," Marcus called, sitting beside me on the bench William had built. "I've been thinking. I want to formally apologize, not just for what happened with Vanessa, but for not seeing it sooner. For not trusting you. You did see it eventually. That's what matters. But I should have seen it immediately. I should have known you better than that." I patted his hand. "You learned an important lesson. Trust your family until they give you a reason not to, and never trust anyone who wants to take from your family. You won't make that mistake again." Charlotte made a happy sound, and Marcus lifted her from the stroller. She reached for me, and I took her, marveling at how much life could change in such a short time. Vanessa had tried to convince Marcus I was a burden at 74. But both Williams' carefully planned protections and my own determination, had changed that story. I wasn't a burden. I was a survivor, a protector, and now a grandmother. And I was exactly where I belonged, in my home, with my family, living life on my own terms.